Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. The Trinamool Congress today formally launched its Assam chapter, inducting over a dozen Congress workers and members in the party fold. TMC MP Mahua Moitra, party's Assam President Ripun Bora, party's leader from the Barak Valley Sushmita Dev and former Meghalaya Chief Minister Mukul Sangma were present on the occasion. Speaking at the event, TMC MP Mahua Moitra said that the need of the hour is to fight the BJP's alleged divisive politics, and it is the TMC's responsibility to provide an alternative, a political alternative rather, to the people of the region. Political alternative for the people of the region. Is the TMC being too ambitious here? What is the voter base that the party is looking at? Will the TMC's entry benefit the BJP instead? These are some of the questions that we're asking tonight. But before we move ahead with the discussion, let's listen in to what TMC MP Mahua Moitra had to say during the joining in program.
हमारे लिए शर्म की बात है कि हमारी जन्म असम में हुआ था और हमारे बचपन ढेकिया चूली जानते हैं, ढेकिया चूली में हम गुजारे हैं, ठीक है। हमारे माँ, हमारा पापा सब कोई चाय बगान के हैं और हम भी बगान में हैं। जन्म हुआ, बगान में बड़े हुए, तो असम के साथ हमारा जो लगाव है वो और बंगाल के छोड़ के और किसी राज्य के साथ मेरा इतना प्यार, इतना लगाव किसी के साथ नहीं है। तो हम जब यहाँ पे आ रहे थे गाड़ी में, हमको जिसने रिसीव करने गए थे मिस बरुआ, और उन्होंने भी मुझे गाड़ी में कहा कि ऐसा लगता है आप तो असम की बेटी है। तो मुझे सुन के इतना अच्छा लगा कि सच में हम अपने आप को असम की बेटी मानते हैं। तो आज मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई हम आपके बीच में आके। নৈতিকতার স্থলন দেখেও, মানবতার পতন দেখেও নির্লজ্জ অলস ভাবে বইছো কেন? माँ गंगा आपको पूछ रही है, इतना कुछ देखते हुए आप चुप से ऐसे बहती क्यों है? बहती क्यों है आप? सबल संग्रामी, आरो अग्रगामी पूरे तोलो ना कहनो। सबको संग्राम, सबको लड़ाई और आगे आके लड़ना आप क्यों लोगों को नहीं पूछते? माँ गंगा से पूछती है।
We are joined in by Trinamool Congress leader and parliamentarian Mahua Moitra, who has arrived here for a joining party of the TMC. Well, TMC seems to be very ambitious about making inroads into Assam and Northeast. So how does the party plan ahead?
So it's not a question of being ambitious. I think what we need to do, the need of the hour all over India when we are fighting the BJP with its terrible divisive communal politics, I think it is the need of the hour that we provide an alternative in other states as well, and that is why we have come to Assam. And today is the beginning of the party of the Assam Trinamool, and what we want to do is to build the organization and go district to district, block to block here.
So two states, Meghalaya and Tripura, is going for polls next year. So how does the party plan for those two states?
Sir, I'm not the state in charge for either of these. We have Mr. Sangma with us, we have Sushmita Dev with us. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you in great detail. But as a Lok Sabha MP of the party, I can safely tell you that we are definitely going to be present in both those elections.
So there we heard TMC MP Mahua Moitra confident, saying the people need a political alternative to the BJP. The TMC is in the region to provide just that. To discuss the issue, I'm being joined from Shillong by Dr. Prasanjit Biswas, Professor Nehu, a political thinker, somebody who closely monitors the activities of the Trinamool, if I may say. Also joining me from Guwahati would be Abhinav Borbara, political analyst again. If I can go to Dr. Prasanjit Biswas first. Well, another chapter for the TMC. It officially launches its Assam unit, so to say. Yes, Sushmita Dev was there to start with, but now it has appointed Ripun Bora as the state president. Ripun Bora, of course, from the Brahmaputra Valley. In a way, the leadership is complete, is near complete now, and now they'll be looking to induct new members as they look to take the party to the grassroots, to the districts, to the blocks. But the question is, are the TMC's plans and ambitions realistic? Dr. Biswas.
TMC has made a kind of a tactical move, and the first move is to recruit a person of Mr. Ripun Bora's stature, which gives it a certain kind of a face in the most important political region of Brahmaputra Valley. Now, Mr. Ripun Bora has this daunting task of propagating the ideology of TMC, which apparently is not very clear. TMC's economic agenda of uplifting the poor and the marginalized, and TMC's apparent call of combining various ethnic groups and communities under one umbrella has to face the incorrigible and the difficult situation of ethnic boundaries and group politics, the politics of group rights, the politics of territorial questions of dominance, the questions of homeland, and all other kinds of ethno-national, ethno-linguistic, and even ethno-religious questions in the context of Assam. I simply find that it's a daunting task, unsurpassable, insurmountable kind of a task with which Mr. Ripun Bora is handed down with. But TMC being an all India party, it has a certain kind of an organizational presence in Barak Valley in Tripura, in certain parts of Meghalaya, and as an extension to this, now they have found a foothold in Brahmaputra Valley, and probably they will expand themselves towards the northern side of Assam, will go to other parts of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, etc. So the primary task of exercising an organizational hold is complete, I would say. But this doesn't necessarily mean that it will ensure good amount of voting, because getting vote is another matter.
Absolutely. Getting
TMC has
vote,
to
getting
clearly
seats is
draw out a clear
completely another
political
matter.
line which it doesn't have.
We'll come to more of that. If I can go to Avinav now. Avinav, again, the TMC looks quite optimistic on its Northeast missions. Same question I'll put forward to you. Are the party's chances realistic? Let's talk about Assam in specific, Abhinav.
For every political party, if it has to gain some amount of attraction, there are at least four elements which are very essential, and it needs to actually address those elements. The first, of course, is that a new party would always benefit and would be able to gain traction if it has a face that actually connects with the masses. The second thing, of course, is that it has to have an ideology in the form of a narrative that enjoys some kind of a resonance with the electorate. After that, a party would have to have a committed cadre, as well as a party would also need resources. Now, with regard to the prospects of the TMC in Assam, if we consider these elements one by one, the first element is resource. Now, considering that the TMC is in government in a very big state, that is West Bengal, I think that with regard to resources, the TMC is well off and it is well endowed, and in that way, it would be able to direct some funds for running the party unit in Assam to some extent. However, the limits of the TMC's strategy with regard to Northeast and with regard to Assam begins to actually show up when we discuss and when we consider the other elements apart from resources. Now, if we consider the case of an ideology, if you look at it, the TMC does not actually have an ideology that can connect with the people of the Northeast. Of course, it has a center-left posturing. It has a posture that is opposed to the BJP. But if you look at Northeast, we already have the AJP as well as the Rise or Dal, which are already parties which have sufficient amount of traction amongst the masses, and which also have a very sharp position that they have been taking against the BJP. So, in that way, creating an ideological space for the TMC in the center, in the left of center spectrum in Assam would be challenging for the TMC, and this is one area where they might actually face some amount of limitations right away. The second thing, of course, is the fact that they do not have a face who can actually connect with the wide electorate spreading across the length and breadth of Assam. Now, for example, if we take the case of AJP, even AJP, if you see, despite having someone like Lurin Jyoti Gogoi, who is a well-known leader of the civil society, who had a long experience as an ASU leader, yet Lurin Jyoti has been himself struggling to connect with the masses. On the other hand, you have someone like Akhil Gogoi, who is also a very popular civil society leader who actually created a records of sorts by managing to actually win an election despite being imprisoned. Now, in comparison to these kind of leaders that both of these young regional parties have, if you look at the TMC, however, with regard to the TMC, till now they have not actually been able to rope any such face who has a mass connect with the people. Now, when you do not have an ideology that enjoys some amount of resonance with the people, and you also do not have a kind of a face that has a mass connect, the problem is that you would not be able to attract skilled political functionaries, young political activists who would
All right,
form
point
a
taken.
very
Point taken.
core
If I
component
can go
of
to
a
Dr.
political.
Biswas again, we in the meantime we have also been joined by Mr. David Lightflang, President Shillong Plus Press Club from Shillong. We'll come to Mr. Lightflang in a while. Dr. Biswas, coming back to you. Well, the TMC in a way started in the Northeast with a boom, first with Tripura, where it looked to make significant inroads. Then, of course, we had Meghalaya, where close to a dozen MLAs overnight jumped ship to the TMC, and the party seemed all set to storm the Northeast. But since then, things have in a way taken a backstep, if I may put it that way. Well, in Tripura also, the activities of the TMC has gone down. Probably they were banking on someone like Sudeep Roy Borman to join the party, which did not happen. He went to the Congress. That could be seen as a setback to the TMC. In Meghalaya too, despite a leader as tall as Mukul Sangma joining the TMC, despite that the party in a way seems to be struggling. So do you think, yes, the TMC started with the boom but couldn't carry the momentum forward somehow? Dr. Biswas.
For this, TMC's own organizational weakness is to be held accountable. Within TMC, there was this huge ruffling of the feathers when Abhishek Banerjee was challenged by the old conventional leadership of TMC in Calcutta. That has created a big kind of a wedge within the organizational structure of TMC. Now, this impacted Tripura organization very much because Abhishek Banerjee was at the helm of Tripura. Now, Sushmita Dev coming back to Assam politics is not a red herring. She has got her own base, but at the same time, combining with Ripun Bora, with whom she doesn't see eye to eye, seems to be a kind of a very difficult marriage of convenience, which may not really yield into the expected kind of results that TMC is expecting from this kind of a leadership. Secondly, the kind of breakaway factions from Congress party and people who couldn't find a place in the mainstream of the Congress party and who got socially alienated. By bringing these people inside the party organization, it may give a certain kind of a look and a face, but it doesn't really go to the grassroots. So the task is daunting for the TMC leadership to reach out to the grassroots. And as I was saying, to reach out to the grassroots, it has to combine multiple kind of oppositional and contrarian forces, resources for which TMC neither has in material terms or in ideological terms, nor it has an effective leadership with a mass appeal. Neither Ripun Bora nor Sushmita Dev are mass leaders. They were organizational leaders. They can work with a small organization, but they really cannot spread tentacles among the masses. So that remains as the biggest shortcoming.
Dr. Biswas,
Yes.
again, the TMC today said, Ripun Bora today said there's no question of alliance with either the Congress or the AIUDF. So what is the voter base that the TMC is looking at? Is it naturally that of the Congress and the AIUDF?
I think he is trying to play maverick, but it is the TMC central leadership which will decide whether TMC will have alliance or not. It is not Mr. Ripun Bora, who just has become the other day the state president, to make such a statement that whether TMC will ally or it will not ally. It will be decided by the central leadership of TMC. I re-emphasize that. And TMC's central leadership has close connection, as you know, with Badruddin Ajmal. It has close connection with some other regional political forces as well. So unless these forces come together, TMC's own organization is in no position even to win a single MLA seat. Forget about MLA seat, a ward also they cannot win in their current leadership and in their current strength. So therefore, this is too much of a political claim that somebody is trying to make, like a red herring, that TMC won't have to do any alliance. That kind of a line is strategically faulty, and it is politically of a non-starter kind. Mr. Bora can be a good face, but Mr. Bora cannot really expand the organization. He doesn't have that organizational skill. In Congress party, we have also seen his organizational skills were very, very limited. So therefore, expecting too much from Ripun Bora and Sushmita Dev is like counting chickens before they are hatched. So therefore, TMC has to be very cautious. It has to be self-critical. It has to address its own weakness without doing all this by generating hype and by talking about its prospects is nothing short of a delusion. So let us not be under any illusion that
All right,
TMC
we
can
will get the
even
first.
cut an inch of the ground.
We will get the first reactions from Mr. David Lightflung, who is joining us from Shillong. Welcome, Mr. Lightflung to Bottom Line. Well, we are talking about the TMC here. The TMC, the Trinamool Congress, launched its Assam chapter officially today. Mr. Mukul Sangma, the former Meghalaya Chief Minister, was also in Guwahati. Naturally, the TMC is aiming big. Probably Meghalaya is one state as of now. If we see the TMC has presence in Assam, Tripura, but Meghalaya, it is the opposition. It is the principal opposition in Meghalaya. How do you fare the TMC's chances in Meghalaya with Mukul Sangma at the helm?
It's not the question of who at the helm at the moment, but I feel TMC will do well. Everybody says so. People, even who are faintly connected to politics or even talk about politics, feel that the TMC, from what they've seen and with all the information available on the internet, they see the good sides of it or whatever. And the fact that it could withstand the mighty power of the BJP and come through, so sensed, kind of sense a good feeling. So yes, people feel it good, but realistically, again, Meghalaya, we are divided into, say, two kinds of polity. The the people from the Garo Hills, our brethren and sisters there, are different in the manner of perception of theirs towards politics, and our Khasi Pnar, Kareem Pnar brothers and sisters also. They feel a different way. So I think the TMC will do really well. Will give a tough fight to the ruling NPP, which is not taking anything for granted. They will do well. They will be TMC will be performing well, I think, in uh, Garo Hills, but in the Khasi Hills and Jayanti Hills, it'll be a little too premature to even try and say that they will
Uh,
probably discuss more and talk more. So I feel that
Absolutely.
uh,
Abhinav Barbara, do you think the TMC, do you think the Trinamool could have probably done better than taking Ripun Bora in its ranks to lead the party in Assam? Very quickly.
The TMC, with regard to deciding to rope in Ripun Bora and make him the president of the state unit, I think it also showcases two things. The first thing is that the decision to actually rope in Ripun Bora and enthusiastically make him the president of the state unit goes on to show that the party has not actually done a proper homework with regard to its Northeastern strategy, particularly with regard to the strategy for Assam. Now, because why? Because Ripun Bora is someone who does not actually have the political capital to lead a party. He was leading a party like the Congress, which, despite its shortcomings and despite the kind of misfortune that it is going through over the last few years, is still a party that is quite reasonably organized. It still has a reasonably good footprint across the length and breadth of Assam. It has a committed cadre in every district of Assam. Yet, even with those kind of props that Ripun Bora had in his disposal, under his leadership, actually, the Congress downturn could not actually be paused, and the Congress actually went through a further deterioration. At the same time, the enthusiasm to actually rope in someone like Ripun Bora also probably points out to the fact that the TMC has not yet been able to garner much appeal amongst the people, amongst the civil society and the political activists of Assam. It is probably a case where beggars can't be choosers, and the TMC is not getting a lot of enthusiastic leaders who are willing to cross the floor and join the TMC, for which the party is having to make do with someone like Ripun Bora, a person who actually has not even been able to ensure that the Congress party, when he was the president, manages to secure a lead in his own booth, in the booth of his own neighborhood. So the fact that the TMC is having to make do with someone like Ripun Bora not only shows that the TMC has not done its homework properly, but it could also mean that there are very few takers as of now for the TMC, which has compelled the party actually to settle with someone with exceptionally low political capital. This is what I have to say regarding that.
Absolutely. Dr. Prasenjit Viswas, there's also a school of thought that believes that the TMC's entry will probably end up benefiting the BJP in Assam. What do you think about that? Do you think that is a bit too far-fetched?
Yes, I don't think TMC has that kind of a electoral base that can impact Congress or UDF. Indeed, TMC will get a marginal slice of the votes that come through personal connections and a little bit of exercise of influence and clientele. TMC is not in a position to buttress an ideology in the context of Assam or in the context of Northeast. In the case of Meghalaya, Mukul Sangma is such a mass leader. With his mass appeal, they may win a good number of seats. But that's not the case in Assam. Ripun Bora cannot even win an MLA election. That is the condition. So, more than TMC needing Ripun Bora needs TMC. Like a drowning man catches onto a straw. And TMC has offered him that straw, and therefore Ripun Bora is there in TMC. Now, the talk is that in the grapevine in Kolkata that Ripun Bora is looking for a Rajya Sabha berth. Now, so many people have joined. Luisinlo Falerio from Goa has joined. He got a Rajya Sabha berth. Satru got a Lok Sabha berth. Shashmita Dev herself got a Rajya Sabha berth. So, going by the same logic, Ripun Bora is expecting a berth in Rajya Sabha. Now, this is not how politics is done. With Ayaram Goyrams, you cannot run a national party like this. Now, TMC also has no other option because they haven't built up a mass base in Assam. So, therefore, any leader who comes based on that leader and the charisma of that leader, some kind of access to the masses, some influence TMC is trying to gather. In contrast to that, we know many TMC mass level leaders in Barak Valley or in certain parts of Brahmaputra Valley. They are not projected in the media, while they are the real organizers. So TMC party has to go a long way to really get a substantial part of vote which will disturb any other major political party. So therefore, it's all media hype and nothing else in the TMC.
Well, that's quite an input. on the TMC's entry to the region. Thank you so much, Dr. Biswas, for your inputs on that. We will now shift focus and also thank you so much, Abhinav Barbara.